If I don't introduce him, he will Zoom bomb us. So Samson.
Oh, hi,
All
Samson.
right. Did you get your screen
Oh my
time? See?
gosh.
Okay. So if you're gonna hang out, you can sit on the pillow, but not climb on the computer while we're doing this. Okay.
So I take this is your home office.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Okay.
here's
Unless you
our
bring your cat to work every day. What'd you
yes,
say
this
his name
one.
was?
Samson.
Samson.
Yeah, the other one is Julian of Norwich. Because Julian of Norwich was a Christian saint who apparently had a cat.
Okay. So that links to your wife working and studying biblical studies, huh?
Yes.
That's her expertise. Oh, what interesting conversations you must have.
Oh yeah, we have great ones.
Speaking of distraction, why you just were distracted by your cats, you're back, and this week you have lots of distractors available to you. But we were going to talk about distraction because it feels like it's another thing that's on the rise for folks. And certainly there's probably aspects of habits and neuroscience and mindfulness that can be helpful for us in terms of our distractibility. So go for it, Dr. Jed. Why did you want to talk about distraction?
Well, I think that in modern day, there's this term, the attention economy. You've probably heard that. I'm sure many have, where you know it's more and more expensive, literally, to get people's attention. And if you can get people's attention, you can sell them things. So I think that's probably where a lot of economies are driven from, based on consumerism. And so whether somebody's consuming social media content or ads to, buy things or whatever, there are a lot of incentives for companies to get people's attention, whether it's a billboard that they're driving by or it's a ad that they're scrolling through on Instagram. And I think more and more people are understanding the behavioral neuroscience that underlies attention and awareness. And so they can capitalize on that and make these things even slicker and better at capturing people's attention. So, if we don't pay attention to this, we're not going to see how we are just going to be constantly pushed and pulled by others. And I'm not sure about you, but I don't want to live that way. It's not how I want to live my life. I want to, even if it's an illusion of control, I want to at least have the illusion of being in control to some degree. So that's why I thought it would be a good topic to talk about, because it's only increasing. And, it's not just, I don't want to be a doomsdayer and say, oh, this is only getting worse and we have no control over it. We do have the ability to be able to work with it. And that's what we can talk about as well.
Wonderful. So we may not have control over our attention being captured when it's sort of done covertly, subconsciously. And I actually interviewed Prince Guman, who wrote the book Blind Sight. It's written by a neuroscientist and a marketer. And they
Hmm.
talked all about how our attention is being captured.
Hmm.
Everything by, contrast, how much contrast is used to capture our attention versus the speed at which things go by. It's
Right.
very nuanced. But how do you struggle with it? Have you noticed a change in your attentional capacity in the last few years? Because I've noticed it for myself of just how maybe I'm not focused as much when I'm reading something. I'm so used to scrolling through and just looking at the bullet points and not reading the details. I mean, just little things like that. What have you
Hmm.
noticed for yourself?
Certainly have noticed things like that. And also, I think most prominently, noticing changes in how I uh, get news information, right? So the ability to scroll through news feeds, that's, as compared to, I used to be a paper boy when I was a kid, so, you know, back in the day, there were what, three sources of news. At least I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I delivered the afternoon newspaper, and then I got a promotion where I deliver the morning newspaper. And so so you can think of you get the morning or the afternoon newspaper, and you can watch the morning or the evening news, or the late night, maybe late night as well. But, it's basically very limited places where we could get information, and very few channels that actually had news. And I remember there being news channels that as a kid, I would definitely stay away from because I was not interested. So, you know, with a newspaper, the news organization was driven by, just using this as an example for distraction, they were driven by getting, reporting accurate news that people wanted to read. And if you trusted them, then they would keep subscribing to the newspaper. But they didn't know how long or what you read. So they just had to put it all out there and try to do the best they could with covering everything that they thought everybody would be interested in. Now they can track every click. They can track how long somebody spends scrolling on an article, and writers can be incentivized differently than just writing the best and most accurate information. And so, what we know is that, uh, you know, outrage, you know, um, it's not just outrage, but on social media, it's really outrage that gets the clicks. It's the incentive for reporting fair and accurate news is gone, and so it's opinion. It's coming from a certain angle that draws the reader in, and then that article goes viral, and that reinforces the writer to write more things that are more biased. And this is also how radicalization happens. In any type of forum, you can be radicalized toward environmental causes. It's radicalization can happen in any form. So bringing this back to distraction is that if you read a headline that's catchy, especially, these are all designed, you phrase it as a question or as something with a piece of information left out. All of those things can lead to somebody just like click, 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 scroll through, try to get the, quick gist of something, as compared to really digesting a news article and seeing all the points and trying to make a determination, or, try to digest that ourselves. It's not like we're going to suddenly become an epidemiologist and know everything by reading a news article, but we can get some information.
Where I see distraction more with my clients is, say I'm working with a college student and they're sitting down and they're trying to write a paper, and they have about 5 to 10 minutes where they can start writing before they're off to click on this, check this, be on their phone with this, respond to that, where there's almost, it's too much opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
play in these
Yeah.
different places that are kind of all within your home screen, right? And I actually even worked on a client once where one of her goals was to not be on her phone while she was watching a show with her boyfriend. It was
the
like
the
like, it
bar
was like
gets
a
very low.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, yeah, that can be one of our goals, like just one media use at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's also another challenge. I mean, I think there's the reading news and kind of getting distracted by the headlines, but then there's also I actually have an objective here that I want to meet. I want to get through writing this thing or doing my taxes or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, and I can't stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where technology has really excelled. I think Cornell West put it, these weapons of mass distraction, because we have these devices constantly with us, and often people, they even get the fear when they can't find their phone. Oh no, like my life is going to end. But it's just because we're so conditioned to be so dependent on these, and feel conditioned to be dependent on them because they are basically intermittent reinforcement machines. So especially if we have our beeps and alerts set up, the worst case, we'd have it set up for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can imagine all the social media as well as email, texting, and then what the thing was actually built for, which is phone calls. But nobody gets phone calls these days, so you can even leave that aside. But the intermittent reinforcement piece is, we never know when we're going to get a text. We never know when we're going to get an email. Never know when somebody's going to respond to our post. And every time we do that, our brain says, "Oh, information. You got to go check that. And so our survival mechanism kicks in that says, I don't know who texted. I need to check. And so suddenly our phone is burning a hole in our pocket or our purse or whatever. And we just can't pay attention to what we're doing because we've got to go check. So these are designed to distract us and designed because they know that intermittent reinforcement is the strongest type of learning. It's really, really hard to resist, to the point where texting now has been shown to be more dangerous than drunk driving, which is pretty darn dangerous.
And during the pandemic, we had to rely on these tools so much more. I was actually talking with
Mm,
another mom over the weekend, and we were just talking about how all the wonderful hygiene we had pre-pandemic around our technology for ourselves and for our kids, and how much the pandemic just kind of ruined it for all of us because
mm,
now, our kids are used to being on screens for 8 hours. So what's the difference if now they're just on it for 2 hours? It's not that bad, right? And same with us, where, we just kind of developed this sort of like slide into more phone use, more technology use. And I would say what goes along with that is a feeling of dissatisfaction. I can feel
mm,
it for myself. I
mm,
feel less connected, less satisfied. My downtime, if I'm using my downtime on technology versus using my downtime out in the garden digging, it feels different.
mm,
And I think that that's something that I'm also hearing about and seeing more of is that people are feeling worse the more
mm,
distracted they are and the more
mm.
that they're using.